What's a fun history fact that not many people know? JFK had some serious health issues. He was on all kinds of drugs. He was super rough up. Spent a large chunk of his childhood in hospital. Apparently, that's where he learned how to charm women / manipulate people by practicing on nurses. Bear in mind, he was around 7 years old at the time. I found that in a book on his medical history for a politics paper I was writing. His father was certainly not adverse to his children going through some experimental procedures, as illustrated by one of the daughters being lobotomized for being hysterical. There were no humans on Madagascar until 500 AD and they came from Borneo, not Africa. I bet the first few days / weeks of exploring the island after they landed were amazing. All those new sights like the octopus trees and lemurs, etc. The Colosseum in ancient Rome had an extendable shade awning with piped-in water to mist attendees on hot days. Also, I've heard that the reason a lot of the stone on the top is missing is because people saw it as free easy stone and stole a lot of it after Rome fell. It was high quality and great for building. Even more impressive, it could seat between 50,000, 80,000 people and be emptied in around 10 minutes. It is also less than half the size of the Circus Maximus, which I think was either 150 or 250,000 people for seating. Also, it would have been very colorfully and vividly painted. Most Roman and Greek ones we picture as white were painted. The paint washed off and no one repainted them, so people Renaissance and on thought they were white. So when they made Roman-like buildings they didn't paint them like the Romans would have. Also, the loudest sound ever known to exist was the eruption of the Krakatoa volcano, which many experts believe was loud enough to be heard around the globe several times. What I mean by that is a sound wave from the eruption circled the earth, then did it again 32 hours later, the time it takes a sound to circle the earth at sea level, because it was so loud. What's truly scary is that, as far as supervolcanoes go, Krakatoa is a baby at about 10 kilometers in diameter. By contrast, Yellowstone is about 75 kilometers at its widest and could very easily cause a mass extinction event if it were to erupt. The Canary Islands on the other hand are formed from the eroded peaks of a volcanic caldera roughly 200 kilometers across. It is also very much still active and mostly underwater. If there was an eruption here, it would be amplified by the flash vaporization of millions of tons of seawater. Geology is fun. In ancient Syria, there was a local custom in which the people would hail the sun as it rose every morning. A Roman legion, the 3 Gallica, picked up the custom while stationed there for a while. In 69 CE, during a series of civil wars known as the Year of the Four Emperors, Titus Flavius Vespasian declared himself emperor and marched on Rome. The Legion 3 Gallica was one of the legions which rose to support him. The legions of the reigning emperor, Vitellius, met Vespasian's legions at the city of Bedriacum in northern Italy. The armies fought all through the night. In the morning, as the sun rose at dawn, the soldiers of the Legion 3 Gallica turned and faced east and began to cheer at the rising sun. Vitellius' forces, not knowing of the Syrian custom, assumed that Vespasian's troops were greeting reinforcement arriving from the east. This caused a collapse of morale among Vitellius' forces, which lost them the battle. It's possible that Vespasian's army would have won the battle anyway, but in the event, it was the 3 Gallica hailing the sun which decided the battle and the war. The armies of Vitellius disintegrated. Vespasian's armies captured Rome. Vitellius was killed, and Vespasian reigned as emperor for the next 10 years. Most of us are familiar with the tragic story of Titanic. Fewer know of Titanic's older and goofier sister, Olympic, which not only had a long and successful career, but spent an awful lot of it smashing into On leaving Southampton for her 5th Atlantic voyage, Olympic sailed just a wee bit close to Royal Navy warship HMS Hawke, scraping off the warship's bow ram. Hawke was severely damaged, while Olympic shrugged it off, despite being hulled in 2 places, and sailed back to Belfast under her own steam for repairs. These repairs delayed Titanic's launch for several weeks. During the First World War, Olympic was temporarily reproposed as a troop transport, but she had a thirst for blood. During one crossing, after sighting a German U-boat attempting to torpedo her, the liner threw a sharp turn and ran the fucker over. The U-boat U-103 was punctured by Olympic's propeller and sunk. Olympic suffered a few dents and a twisted prow, but was not breached. Olympic earned the distinction of being the only merchant ship to sink an enemy vessel during the war. Fast forward to New York Harbor 1924, and Olympic collided with another ship which dared cross her path. The Italian ship Fort St. George suffered extensive damage, and Olympic, which appeared unscathed at the time, later had to have her entire stern frame replaced. Incidentally, during this refit a mysterious dent was found below Olympic's waterline. This was confirmed to be from a torpedo that had hit the liner during the war a decade earlier and not detonated. Olympic didn't bat an eyelid. 9 years later, Olympic joined the long list of ships that had collided with the Nantucket lightship. Not content with just this, however, Olympic decided to better the rest of them, hitting the lightship amidships and cutting it clean in two. 7 of the lightship's crew perished. Eventually, the only thing that could stop this maniac of the ocean wasn't nature or the laws of physics, but the economy. Transatlantic travel took a major hit during the Depression, and Olympic was scrapped when she could no longer compete with more modern and efficient liners. She had been terrorizing the high seas for 24 years. It's a shame really that of Titanic and her 2 sisters, most of us are familiar only with the less interesting one. The first fleet to Australia, landing on January 26th, consisted of ships divided into male and female convicts. After having been at sea for several months and disembarking onto the beach, there was a good deal of sexual tension, such that it was feared a riot would erupt. In order to prevent this, the commander gave orders to allow the male and female prisoners to mix as documented in the ship logs. Thus, the first official act on Australian soil, and celebrated annually on Australia Day, was a huge orgy. Marie Antoinette's last words were "I'm sorry." She accidentally stepped on the foot of the executioner before she was beheaded. Lobster used to be food for the poorest of poor and was considered disgusting. They were so plentiful in New England that they could easily be picked off of the beaches at low tide. They were referred to as insects of the sea.